The last text message Rachel Martinez sent was at 11:47 p.m. Someone's at the door. Her phone went dead. Her husband Michael's car was found running in their driveway, keys still in the ignition, driver's door wide open. Their two children, ages 8 and 12, vanished without a trace. But here's what the police never told you. There were 5 other families who disappeared the exact same way in the past 2 years. Same method, same chilling final messages. And what investigators found in the basement of the Martinez family home will make your blood run cold. To hear happened just 6 months ago. And the person responsible, they're still out there. Before we dive into this nightmare, I want to thank everyone who's been following this channel and supporting these deep dive investigations. If you're new here and you're drawn to true crime cases that others won't touch, hit that subscribe button right now, because what I'm about to reveal about the Martinez family case has never been shared publicly before, and you won't find this information anywhere else. The authorities don't want you to know what I'm about to tell you. The Martinez family wasn't random. They were selected, hunted, and the evidence suggests whoever did this had been watching them for months. Security footage shows a figure standing across the street from their home every Tuesday for 6 weeks before they disappeared. Always at exactly 10:30 m.m. Always in the same spot. But first, let me tell you about the pattern that police tried to bury. Because what happened to the Martinez family, it's happened before, and it's going to happen again. Unless we stop it. October 15, 2024, 11:43 p.m. Rachel Martinez posted a photo on Instagram. Her children asleep, the caption reading, "Blessed." 4 minutes later, her phone sent that final text to her sister, "Someone's at the door." Her sister Emma immediately called back. The phone rang once, then went straight to voicemail. Emma tried again, same thing. By the third call, the number was showing as disconnected. At 11:52 p.m., exactly 9 minutes after that text, neighbor Mrs. Hoffman called 911. She reported screaming from the Martinez house, then sudden silence. When police arrived at 12:07 a.m., they found Michael's sedan in the driveway, engine still running, headlights on, driver's door hanging open. The house was unlocked. Every light was on. The TV was still playing. A children's movie, volume turned up loud. On the kitchen counter, 4 plates were set for breakfast the next morning. Rachel's purse sat on the dining table, wallet and keys inside. Michael's work boots were by the front door, still tied. But the family was gone. Here's where it gets strange. The security system showed no record of the front door opening after 8:15 p.m. when Michael came home from work. The back door had been locked from the inside. Every window was secure, screens intact. Yet somehow 4 people had vanished from a locked house. The police report lists this as unexplained circumstances, but that's not the whole truth. Because when investigators processed the scene, they found something that changed everything. In the basement, behind a false wall that had been recently constructed, they discovered a room that shouldn't exist. And inside that room were photographs. Hundreds of them, all taken from inside the Martinez home. But that's not even the strangest part, because those photographs, they were taken over the course of 6 months. Someone had been inside their house documenting their daily routines, their habits, their lives, and the Martinez family had no idea. The timestamps on the photos showed the intruder had been there while the family slept, while they ate dinner, while the children played. Always watching, always recording. But who was taking these pictures, and how were they getting inside a house with a state-of-the-art security system? The answer to that question will shock you. But first, you need to understand that the Martinez family was not the first. 2 years before the Martinez disappearance, the Thompson family vanished from their home in Cedar Falls, Iowa. Same scenario, car running in the driveway, house unlocked, family gone. The final communication was a text from Jennifer Thompson to her mother, "Someone's knocking." 18 months ago, the Rodriguez family disappeared from Phoenix, Arizona. Car in the driveway, engine running, front door open. Maria Rodriguez's last text to her friend, "There's someone outside." 14 months ago, the Kim family vanished from Portland, Oregon. Same pattern exactly. Last message from Susan Kim to her sister, "Someone's at the front door." 7 months ago, the Williams family disappeared from their home in Tampa, Florida. James Williams's final text to his brother, "Someone's here." 5 families. 5 identical disappearances, 5 final messages about someone at the door. But here's what law enforcement doesn't want you to know. They've been tracking this pattern. They know these cases are connected. They have evidence linking all 5 disappearances, and they've been keeping it classified. Why? Because what they discovered about the perpetrator is too dangerous for public knowledge. Each family lived in a different state, but they all shared specific characteristics. Upper middle class income. 2 children between ages 8 and 15. Lived in suburban neighborhoods with large backyards. And here's the detail that ties it all together. Every single family had recently installed the same brand of home security system. Safeguard Home Security, a company that went out of business 1 month after the Martinez disappearance. Coincidence? Not likely. When investigators tried to track down Safeguard's employee records, they found something disturbing. The company had no physical address, no corporate offices, no legitimate business registration. It was a shell company, and every family that used their services disappeared within 6 months of installation. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is what they found when they analyzed the security footage from each home. In every case, the cameras stopped recording at the exact moment each family vanished. Not before, not after. At the precise second they disappeared, every camera went black. That's impossible unless the person operating the security system was the same person making these families disappear. That's when investigators found the photographs, hundreds of them, and they were all taken from inside the victims' homes, just like the Martinez case. But these photos revealed something that made seasoned detectives physically sick. The families were being watched for months before they disappeared, photographed while they slept, while they ate, while they lived their normal lives, completely unaware that someone was documenting their every move. And in every photo in the corner of each image was a timestamp and a signature, a digital watermark that read, Project Collection, Phase 1. Project Collection, that's what this was called. These weren't random disappearances. This was an organized operation. But Phase 1 of what? And if these 5 families were Phase 1, what happened in Phase 2? The detective who tried to expose the truth? Detective Marcus Webb from the Cedar Falls Police Department. He was the first to connect these cases. He compiled evidence, built a profile, and was preparing to go public with his findings. Detective Webb disappeared from his home 3 months ago. His car was found running in his driveway, keys in the ignition, driver's door open. No final text message this time, just gone. What I'm about to tell you comes from Detective Webb's private files, obtained through sources I cannot name. His investigation uncovered a network of disappearances spanning 12 states and reaching back 5 years. The Safeguard Home Security connection was just the beginning. Webb discovered that each missing family had been selected based on a specific profile. The perpetrator wasn't choosing victims randomly. They were following a checklist. 2 parents, 2 children, household income between $75,000 and $150,000, suburban location with privacy, and most importantly, no extended family living nearby. These families were isolated, perfect targets. But Webb found something else, something that explains how the perpetrator was getting inside secure homes undetected. Every Safeguard security system came with a feature called remote monitoring. The company claimed it allowed them to check your home's security status and respond to emergencies faster. What it actually did was give them complete access to your house. The system could disable door locks, turn off alarm sensors, and loop security camera footage. With the press of a button, someone could make your home completely vulnerable while making it appear that everything was secure. But that still doesn't explain how entire families were removed from their homes without a trace. Webb's investigation led him to a warehouse in Detroit, abandoned, empty, but in the basement he found something that changed everything. Holding cells, 5 of them, each with evidence that they had been recently occupied. Children's clothing, adult belongings, and scratched into the concrete wall of each cell was a family name: Thompson, Rodriguez, Kim, Williams, Martinez. But here's the detail that made Webb realize the true scope of this operation. There were 20 more cells, empty cells waiting for the next victims. Webb photographed everything, collected evidence, built a case that would expose this network and save lives. 3 days before he was scheduled to present his findings to the FBI, Webb's house was broken into. His computer was stolen. His case files were taken. His backup drives disappeared. And then Webb disappeared too. The Detroit warehouse was demolished 1 week later. Construction crews said it was a scheduled demolition that had been planned for months. But Webb's contacts at the city planning office confirmed no demolition permits had ever been filed. Someone wanted that evidence destroyed. Someone with enough power to make buildings disappear and detectives vanish. The official investigation into Webb's disappearance lasted exactly 48 hours before being classified as a voluntary missing person case. His department was told he had taken personal leave to deal with family issues. Detective Webb had no family. But Webb wasn't the only one trying to expose the truth. There was another investigator, a private detective named Angela Torres, who had been hired by the Rodriguez family to find their missing relatives. Torres had been building her own case, following her own leads. She had identified 7 more families that fit the profile and had recently installed Safeguard security systems. Torres sent her findings to local law enforcement in each city, warning them about potential targets. She sent copies of her evidence to the FBI, the state police, and every major news outlet. Nothing happened. No follow-up investigations, no news coverage, no protection for the at-risk families. 2 weeks later, 3 of those 7 families disappeared. Torres realized she was fighting something bigger than a single perpetrator. This was organized, protected, and anyone who got too close to the truth became a target themselves. So Torres went underground. She created an encrypted communication network with family members of the missing victims. She began documenting everything, building an independent case file that couldn't be stolen or suppressed. And what Torres discovered will make you question everything you think you know about these disappearances. Because the person responsible for the Martinez family's disappearance isn't working alone, and they're not just collecting families for ransom or trafficking. They're collecting them for something much worse. What I'm about to share with you is based on leaked crime scene photos and testimony from first responders who were sworn to secrecy. This information has never been made public, and there are people who don't want you to know what was really found in the Martinez basement. Remember that hidden room I mentioned earlier? The one behind the false wall? When investigators fully processed that space, they found more than just photographs. They found medical equipment, IV stands, surgical instruments, sedatives, and monitoring devices. The room had been converted into a makeshift medical facility, complete with restraints and observation cameras. But that's not the disturbing part. The disturbing part is what the medical equipment was used for. DNA testing revealed traces of blood from all 5 missing families in that basement room. The Thompson family from Iowa, the Rodriguez family from Arizona, the Kim family from Oregon, the Williams family from Florida, and the Martinez family. They had all been in that basement. They had all been held in that room. And based on the medical evidence, they had all been kept alive for an extended period of time. The blood evidence showed a timeline. The families weren't killed immediately after their disappearance. They were held captive for weeks, possibly months, before. But here's where it gets truly horrifying. Chemical analysis of the medical equipment revealed traces of experimental drugs, compounds that don't exist in any legitimate pharmaceutical database. Custom-made substances designed for one purpose, behavioral modification. These families weren't just kidnapped. They were being used as test subjects. The photographs found in the basement weren't just surveillance images. They were before and after documentation. Pictures of the families in their normal lives, then pictures of them in captivity, showing the effects of whatever experiments were being conducted. And in the corner of each photograph, that same digital signature, Project Collection Phase 1. But investigators found something else in that basement, something that revealed the true scope of this operation. A computer system, still connected to the internet, still actively monitoring 12 other homes across the country. 12 families, 12 security systems, 12 sets of surveillance photos being updated in real time. Phase 2 was already underway. The computer system contained detailed profiles on each target family, daily schedules, personal habits, security weaknesses, and something called extraction readiness scores. The families were being ranked on how easy they would be to take. 3 families had scores marked as ready for collection. But that's not even the most disturbing discovery, because when investigators traced the computer's network connections, they found something that made them realize this operation was bigger than anyone imagined. The system was connected to servers in 6 different countries. The data was being shared with multiple organizations, and the funding for this operation, it was coming from a source that's going to shock you. Corporate research grants. Legitimate scientific institutions were unknowingly funding these experiments through shell companies and false research proposals. Universities, medical research foundations, and government agencies had all contributed money to what they believed were legitimate behavioral studies. In reality, they were funding the kidnapping and experimentation on American families. The paper trail showed millions of dollars in research funding flowing through dozens of fake companies, all leading back to the same source, a private research facility called the Blackwood Institute. The Blackwood Institute doesn't officially exist. No corporate registration, no business license, no public records. But their research papers have been published in major scientific journals for the past 10 years. Papers about behavioral modification, memory suppression, and something called family unit dynamics under controlled stress environments. They weren't just studying the families they kidnapped. They were publishing the results of their experiments in legitimate scientific publications. And the scientific community was citing their work, building on their research, advancing their agenda without knowing the true source of the data. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is what happened when investigators tried to shut down the operation. 24 hours after the basement was discovered, every piece of evidence disappeared from the police station. The photographs, the computer system, the medical equipment, all of it vanished overnight. The officers who processed the scene were reassigned to different departments. The detective in charge of the case was given early retirement, and the official report was classified at the highest levels of government. Someone wanted this investigation stopped, someone with enough power to make evidence disappear and silence law enforcement. But they couldn't silence everyone, because one person documented everything before the cover-up began. Crime scene photographer Janet Mills secretly copied every piece of evidence before it disappeared. She kept detailed records, backup files, and witness testimonies. And what Mills discovered about the identity of the perpetrator will change everything you think you know about this case. Because the person responsible for these disappearances isn't some random criminal operating alone. They're a respected member of society, someone with legitimate credentials, government connections, and the resources to make entire families vanish without a trace. And if the pattern holds true, there's another family that's being watched right now. Another family that has no idea they're about to become part of Phase 2. What I'm about to reveal comes from Janet Mills's secret evidence files and corroborating testimony from 3 separate sources who have risked their lives to expose this truth. The Blackwood Institute isn't run by a criminal organization. It's operated by Dr. Harrison Blackwood, a former government researcher who spent 15 years working on classified psychological warfare projects for the Department of Defense. Dr. Blackwood's official biography lists him as a respected behavioral scientist with degrees from Harvard and MIT. He's published over 200 research papers, testified before Congress on matters of national security, and received millions in government research grants. But his classified work tells a different story. For 15 years, Blackwood developed interrogation techniques, psychological manipulation methods, and behavioral control systems for military intelligence. His specialty was something called environmental conditioning, the ability to modify human behavior through controlled trauma and systematic psychological pressure. When his government contracts ended in 2018, Blackwood didn't retire. He privatized his research through the Blackwood Institute and began conducting unauthorized experiments on civilian populations. The missing families weren't random victims. They were test subjects in Blackwood's continued research into family unit psychology and trauma-based behavioral modification. But here's the detail that makes this truly terrifying. Blackwood wasn't working alone. His research was being funded and supported by a network of private corporations, government contractors, and international research institutions. Companies that specialize in security systems, surveillance technology, and data collection were all connected to Blackwood's operation. The Safeguard Home Security Company was just one front for a much larger surveillance network. These corporations were using Blackwood's research to develop more effective methods of population control, consumer manipulation, and social engineering. The missing families were providing data that would be used to influence and control millions of people, but the scope of this operation goes beyond missing families and behavioral research. Janet Mills's evidence files revealed that Blackwood had been conducting similar experiments for years under different covers. Missing persons cases dating back to 2015 all showed the same patterns, the same methods, the same digital signatures. Dozens of families, hundreds of individuals, all disappeared for the advancement of Blackwood's research. And here's the most disturbing truth. Some of those families were found, not rescued, found. In 2019, hikers in Montana discovered the remains of a family of 4 in a remote cabin. The official cause of death was listed as exposure, but the bodies showed evidence of medical procedures, systematic malnutrition, and psychological trauma consistent with long-term captivity. The family had been missing for 8 months. 8 months of captivity, experimentation, and whatever horrors Blackwood subjected them to before they died. If this case has disturbed you as much as it has disturbed me, smash that like button and subscribe for more deep dive investigations into cases that others won't touch. Ring the notification bell because I'm currently investigating 3 more connected disappearances that happened just last month. And what I've discovered will make the Martinez case look like a single isolated incident. Share this video with everyone you know. The more people who understand the scope of this operation, the harder it becomes for Blackwood and his associates to operate in secret. Post this on every social media platform you use. Send it to journalists, law enforcement, government representatives, and anyone with the power to take action. But be careful who you trust. Remember that this conspiracy involves people at the highest levels of government and law enforcement. Not everyone who claims to want to help can be trusted. Document everything. If you notice unusual surveillance, behavioral changes in your community, or any other signs that match the patterns I've described, create encrypted backups of your evidence and store them in multiple secure locations. Your awareness could save lives. Your vigilance could stop the next phase of this operation. The people responsible for these disappearances are counting on your silence, your compliance, and your willingness to trust authority figures who may not have your best interests at heart. Don't give them what they want. Stay vigilant, stay suspicious, stay alive. And remember, Dr. Harrison Blackwood is still out there. His operation is still active. His next victims are already being conditioned for disappearance. The Martinez family trusted their security system to protect them. They trusted law enforcement to investigate their case. They trusted that someone would care enough to find them. They were wrong on all counts. Don't make the same mistake. Until next time, question everything, trust no one, and never forget that the most dangerous predators are the ones who operate with official approval. The truth is out there, but you'll have to fight for it.